In the summer of 2018, off the coast of Washington state, a mother orca gave birth to a calf that lived for exactly 30 minutes. Then, the calf died. What happened next made news around the world. The mother, an orca named Tahlequah, refused to let her baby go. She lifted the small body to the surface with her head. When it slipped, she dove down and lifted it again, and again, and again. She did this for 17 days. Across more than 1,000 miles of open ocean. Marine biologists watched, unable to help. Members of her pod took turns carrying the calf when Tahlequah grew too exhausted to continue. For 17 days, an entire family of orcas held a slow, silent procession across the sea, carrying a body none of them wanted to release. We don't have a good word for what that was, but we have a lot of them we've been told not to use. Grief, mourning, awareness, understanding. For most of the last few hundred years, we've been taught that only humans truly understand death, that animals fear pain, that they flee from predators, but that the awareness of mortality, the concept of dying, the anticipation of loss, belongs to us alone. That belief has quietly shaped almost everything about how we treat other species, and modern science is now proving that belief almost completely wrong. Let's start with the most well-documented case in all of animal biology: elephants. Cynthia Moss, an American researcher, has spent over 40 years studying a single population of wild elephants in Amboseli National Park in Kenya. In that time, her team has recorded dozens of behaviors that have no other reasonable explanation than one that scientists were, for decades, afraid to name. When an elephant dies, other elephants respond. They approach the body. They touch it with their trunks. They gently lift a leg or brush an ear. They stand in silence, sometimes for hours. Younger elephants who never knew the deceased still stop and gather. And here's the part that changed the science. Elephants recognize the bones of their dead, even years later. Moss's team ran a controlled experiment. They placed 3 sets of objects in a clearing: pieces of wood, a rhino skull, and the skull of a dead elephant. The elephants ignored the wood. They ignored the rhino skull, but they walked directly to the elephant skull, and they touched it. They stood beside it. Some of them held their trunks against it for minutes at a time. If the skull belonged to a family member, the response was even stronger. Elephants have been documented traveling miles out of their way to return to the bones of a parent, a sibling, a matriarch, sometimes decades after the death. This is not instinct. This is memory. This is recognition. This is something that looks disturbingly like grief. Elephants are not the only ones. In 2009, a behavioral ecologist named Mark Bekoff at the University of Colorado watched something in his own backyard he could not explain. A magpie had been hit by a car and lay dead in the road. 4 other magpies approached the body. One of them gently pecked at the dead bird. Another walked around it, examining it from every angle. Then 2 of the magpies flew away. They returned a few moments later, each carrying a small piece of grass in their beak. They placed the grass gently beside the body. Then all 4 birds stood in silence for several seconds before flying away together. Bekoff published what he had seen. He called it a magpie funeral. Ornithologists have since documented similar behaviors in crows, ravens, and jays, species that carry a level of intelligence humans consistently underestimate. But the deepest, most uncomfortable evidence comes from the animals most closely related to us: chimpanzees. In 2010, at Blair Drummond Safari Park in Scotland, researchers documented the death of a 50-year-old chimpanzee named Pansy. Pansy had been ill for weeks. Her family gathered around her in the days leading up to her death. Her adult daughter groomed her. Her family members brought her soft food and stayed close to her body. In the hour before she died, they cleaned her, quieted, and remained beside her. After she stopped breathing, the group did not eat that night. They did not sleep in the usual spots. Her daughter stayed beside the body throughout the entire night, refusing to leave. The next morning, when caregivers moved the body, other members of the group inspected the empty sleeping platform and returned to it repeatedly over the following days. For weeks, the entire community's behavior was subdued. Primatologists who reviewed the footage described the response as, quite plainly, mourning. The lead researcher wrote that the chimpanzees appeared to show many of the same behaviors humans display when losing a family member, including what looked like anticipatory grief before the moment of death itself. This raises a question science has been trying to avoid for a very long time. If chimpanzees know that death is coming, do they fear it? The evidence suggests yes. Studies of chimps and bonobos have found that individuals nearing death often show behaviors consistent with fear, seeking closeness with familiar individuals, avoiding being alone, unusual vocalizations, and a kind of quiet withdrawal that closely mirrors what humans experience in hospice. The same has been observed in whales, dolphins, elephants, dogs, and horses. Any animal complex enough to grieve is complex enough to anticipate. And this is where the story circles back to us. For most of human history, we did not believe we were alone in our awareness of death. Ancient hunter-gatherer cultures, from the San of the Kalahari to the indigenous peoples of the Amazon, consistently described animals as beings with inner lives, capable of grief, memory, and knowing when their end was near. Hunters spoke to the animals they killed, apologized to them, thanked them, not because they were superstitious, because they had spent a lifetime watching animals up close, and they had seen what modern city dwellers never get the chance to see. They had watched an old dog quietly wander into the forest to die alone. They had seen a mother elephant refuse to leave her fallen calf. They had witnessed the eyes of a dying deer track them with something they recognized as understanding. The idea that only humans grieve, that only humans know they are going to die, is a relatively recent invention. It began mostly with a French philosopher named René Descartes in the 1600s, who argued that animals were essentially biological machines, incapable of thought, incapable of feeling, incapable of anything resembling an inner life. His view became foundational to Western science. For 300 years, researchers who documented animal grief were dismissed. Their observations were called sentimental, anthropomorphic, unscientific. We've built entire industries on the assumption that other species did not truly understand what was happening to them. And now, generation by generation, the evidence is quietly overturning that assumption. There is a phrase used in some of the latest thanatology research, the study of death across species. The phrase is this: consciousness of mortality may not be a threshold, it may be a spectrum. Which means that somewhere on that spectrum, sitting beside us, are elephants who mourn their dead for decades, whales who carry lifeless calves across oceans, chimpanzees who sit vigil beside dying family members, magpies who lay grass on the bodies of strangers. They are not us, but they are not the mindless creatures we once told ourselves they were. So the next time you look at an animal, a dog resting its head on your knee, a horse pressing its face against yours, a wild deer standing still in the corner of a field, remember what the science is quietly telling us. They know more than we thought they did. They feel more than we allowed ourselves to believe. And when the moment comes for them, as it will come for all of us, most of them will know. They will look at the world one last time with the same understanding we once thought belonged only to us. And they will be afraid, and they will be grieved. And in that final quiet moment, they will be, in every way that has ever mattered, exactly like us.